The ocean has no law. That's what they believed. That somewhere between the coastlines, out past the point where radar loses interest in shipping lanes stretch into silence, the rules stop applying. That a fast boat, a few rifles, and the right amount of desperation could turn the open sea into a gold mine. For a period spanning roughly a decade, Somali pirates operated on exactly that assumption. They boarded tankers, bulk carriers, fishing vessels, private yachts. They held crews hostage for weeks, sometimes months. They demanded ransoms worth millions of dollars. And for a while, it worked. But the ocean isn't ungoverned. It never was. What these pirates kept discovering, often too late to matter, is that the moment a distress signal fires, something enormous begins moving in their direction. Warships, destroyers, naval commandos trained for exactly this scenario. Attack helicopters, surveillance drones, sniper teams. What you're about to hear is a series of encounters, real, documented, and in several cases classified for years, where armed pirates boarded the wrong vessel, sailed into the wrong waters, or simply made one irreversible mistake against one of the world's great navies. Not all of them survived to face trial. This is their story. January 5th, 2024, late Friday evening, the Arabian Sea. The MV Leila Norfolk is a massive bulk carrier, 84,000 tons of steel moving through one of the most pirate-monitored corridors on the planet. On board, 21 crew members, 15 of them Indian nationals. The rest a mix of nationalities who signed on for a job that had become increasingly dangerous just by existing in these waters. Somewhere in the darkness off the Somali coast, 5, possibly 6, armed men board the vessel. It happens fast, it always does. By the time the crew has fully registered what's happening, the attackers are on deck, weapons raised, giving orders. The distress signal goes out immediately, and that's when everything changes. Because the SOS from the Leila Norfolk doesn't land in some quiet Port Authority office somewhere, waiting for paperwork. It reaches the Indian Navy's Western Command, an organization that, since 2008, has been running continuous anti-piracy operations in exactly these waters. And within minutes, it sets in motion a response that the pirates aboard that ship could not have imagined. The INS Chennai, a frontline guided missile destroyer already on active anti-piracy patrol, alters course. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't wait for further confirmation. It moves, but the Chennai is not alone. Within hours, the skies above the Leila Norfolk fill up. A P-8I Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, one of the most advanced surveillance aircraft in the Indian Navy's arsenal, begins circling. Naval helicopters are dispatched, and overhead, feeding live intelligence back to command, an MQ-9B Sea Guardian drone, the naval variant of the Predator, begins building a real-time picture of everything happening on and around that ship. The pirates have no idea any of this is coming. January 8th, 2024, 3 days into the standoff, the P-8I makes its move. It sweeps low over the Leila Norfolk and begins broadcasting. Not a polite request, a direct, unambiguous warning. Military boarding is imminent. The consequences of resistance are made clear. What happens next is almost anticlimactic, but only if you don't understand how terrifying that moment must have been for the men on deck. The pirates panic. With a naval destroyer closing in on the surface, a surveillance aircraft overhead, and helicopters approaching from multiple vectors, the calculation shifts instantly. The potential payday dissolves. What remains is a simple survival question. How fast can we get off this ship? They abandon the Leila Norfolk entirely, jump ship, disappear into the water. When the INS Chennai's boarding team reaches the vessel, they move through it systematically, securing compartments, checking every space, and they find nothing. No pirates, no resistance. Just 21 crew members, shaken, exhausted, but unharmed, and an empty ship that a few hours earlier had been under armed occupation. Every one of the 21 crew members walks away. The pirates are never found. It was a clean victory, almost surgical, but it was the exception, not the rule. Because sometimes the pirates didn't panic. Sometimes they fought back. And in April 2009, the most famous hostage standoff in the modern history of piracy played out in real time, broadcast to the entire world. April 8, 2009, the Indian Ocean, 240 nautical miles off the coast of Somalia. The MV Maersk Alabama is a U.S. flag cargo ship, part of the same fleet that just weeks later would become internationally infamous. On this particular morning, it is 240 miles from shore, carrying food aid, when 4 Somali pirates approach in a skiff and begin their assault. The crew doesn't give in without a fight. They launch flares. They activate fire hoses. They try everything available to a civilian vessel. The pirates board anyway. And for a moment, it looks like a textbook hijacking until the crew pulls something unexpected. While many of the Alabama's sailors retreat into a secure safe room below decks, the remaining crew members launch a counter-operation. They capture one of the 4 pirates. They have a hostage of their own. Now it's a negotiation. What follows is a tense, disorganized hostage exchange. The crew's pirate traded against the ship's captain, Richard Phillips. But the exchange goes wrong. When the dust settles, 3 pirates have departed the Alabama with Phillips confined in a small covered lifeboat. The ship is free, but its captain is floating somewhere in the Indian Ocean, surrounded by armed men demanding millions. The U.S. Navy responds immediately. The guided missile destroyer USS Bainbridge is dispatched, then additional vessels, then naval aircraft, and quietly, with no public announcement, a SEAL team is staged. Men with .30 caliber sniper rifles and specific lethal skills who begin preparing for the scenario that everyone hopes won't be necessary. For 3 days, the standoff holds. The pirates want ransom. The Navy offers to trade back their captured pirate in exchange for Phillips. The pirates keep refusing. The lifeboat bobs in the heat. Inside, Richard Phillips sits with 3 armed men who are running out of options and growing more desperate by the hour. On April 12th, day 4, the tension breaks. One pirate raises his AK-47 and points it at Captain Phillips. The SEAL snipers, positioned on the fantail of the Bainbridge with a clear line of sight to the lifeboat, have been waiting for exactly this. Their rules of engagement are clear. 3 rifles fire simultaneously. 3 pirates are dead before they hit the floor. The 4th, who had surrendered earlier and been taken aboard the Bainbridge for medical treatment, is taken into custody. He will later be convicted in a Manhattan federal court and sentenced to 33 years and 9 months in prison. Richard Phillips is pulled from the lifeboat. He is alive, unharmed. The operation becomes a defining moment. Proof that the U.S. Navy's willingness to project lethal force into a small, difficult situation wasn't theoretical. When it came down to it, 3 shots, fired in perfect synchronization, ended the standoff in under a second. But not every story ended with the hostage walking away. And in the dark waters of the Gulf of Aden on the same January day in 2011, 2 very different navies were about to demonstrate 2 very different philosophies about what happens after you capture a pirate. 2 ships, 2 navies, 1 day, January 20th, 2011. Operation Dawn 8. The MV Bunga Laurel is a Malaysian-owned chemical tanker loaded with lubricating oil and chemicals worth approximately $9.8 million. It is sailing near the Gulf of Aden when a group of 18 Somali pirates, traveling in skiff-type assault boats, close in and board her. 7 pirates come aboard. 11 remain in the support skiffs, standing by. The 23 Filipino crew members aboard act quickly, activating the ship's security alert system, transmitting a distress signal to the nearby Royal Malaysian Navy auxiliary ship, Bunga Maslima. The Fleet Operations Commander orders the Bunga Laurel to reverse course and make for a Navy-secured escort corridor. And then the crew does something that very few in this situation have the training or the nerve to do. They seal themselves inside the Citadel. The Citadel is a hardened security chamber built directly adjacent to the engine room, a fortified refuge designed specifically for this scenario. Once the crew is inside, the pirates control a ship they can't operate. It becomes a siege, and the clock starts working against the pirates. Meanwhile, Malaysia's elite naval counterterrorism unit, Pascal, is being briefed. This operation will be called Operation Dawn 8, And the name turns out to be literal. Pascal deploys at night. 14 operators equipped with cutting-edge gear launch in 2 rigid-hull inflatable boats. An attack helicopter follows overhead for air support. For an entire night, they trail the Bunga Laurel in darkness, closing distance slowly, staying completely undetected. They operate in total silence for hours, waiting. Then at dawn, the helicopter roars into position above the 11 pirate support personnel, cutting off any reinforcement. Simultaneously, the Pascal operators board the vessel. 7 pirates, trained commandos. The outcome is not close. Gunfire breaks out, but the element of surprise belongs entirely to Pascal. 3 pirates are wounded, 4 are captured. All 23 crew members emerge from the Citadel completely unharmed. It is a near-perfect counter-terrorism operation, executed against a live hostile force, at sea in darkness. The same day, May 5, 2010, Gulf of Aden. On the other side of the piracy problem, the Russian Navy was about to handle things somewhat differently. The MV Moscow University is a Liberian-flagged Russian oil tanker sailing through one of the most dangerous shipping lanes on Earth when Somali pirates board her over the opposition of the crew, who fight back with water cannons and flare pistols. The pirates win the deck. The captain makes a decision. He orders the entire crew to retreat to the engine room. He cuts power. He locks the ship down. And from inside a barricaded compartment deep in the vessel's hull, the crew transmits a distress signal and then waits for 20 hours, while the ship sits dead in the water. The Russian Navy destroyer Marshal Shaposhnikov receives the signal and moves to intercept. A Royal Australian Air Force AP-3C Orion responds as well, providing reconnaissance, locating the dead tanker, identifying 3 pirate skiffs alongside it. When the Shaposhnikov closes in, the pirates make a decision that reflects a catastrophic miscalculation of who they are dealing with. They fire on the reconnaissance helicopter. The helicopter returns fire. 1 pirate is killed. This doesn't deter the rescue operation, it confirms it. The Shaposhnikov fires 2 warning shots. Standard naval protocol. Then it opens fire with its cannons, providing cover for the naval infantry commandos who board the vessel via helicopter under live fire. The commandos move fast. The pirates, already shaken by the incoming cannon fire, are overpowered within minutes. The entire crew is rescued, every single one. And then, the Russian Navy does something that has been discussed and debated ever since. They disarm the pirates. They confiscate all equipment. They put the surviving pirates in an inflatable life raft. They give them basic provisions, food, water for a few days, and they leave. No navigation equipment, no communications, no way to call for help or find land. The pirates were never found. No official statement was ever issued about their fate. No search was conducted. The Russian Navy declined to comment on what they expected would happen to men adrift in the Gulf of Aden, with no means to navigate. The implication was clear enough. Some engagements were over in hours. Others lasted nearly a day. January 28, 2011, the Arabian Sea. A routine Indian Coast Guard Dornier patrol aircraft is flying a standard anti-piracy route west of the Lakshadweep archipelago when its crew spots something that doesn't fit the pattern. 2 fast skiffs and a larger vessel, the trawler Pranali A-14, running down a container ship called the MV Veery. The moment the pirates realize they've been seen from the air, they abandon the chase. They pull back toward the Pranali A-14 and attempt to disappear. They are too late. The sighting is immediately reported to the Indian Navy, which dispatches 3 vessels, including the 325-ton INS Kankarso, a Car Nicobar-class patrol vessel. The operation is designated Battle off Minicoy Island. The Kankarso searches for hours and cannot find the Pranali A-14. Then, about 100 nautical miles north of Minicoy Island, it locates the vessel. On board, 15 Somali pirates and 20 hostages. The Navy attempts contact. Radio calls go unanswered. A warning shot is fired. The pirates respond with rocket-propelled grenades. What follows is a 12-hour naval battle in open ocean. The Pranali A-14 is armed with RPGs and AK-47s. The Concarso has a 30mm CRN-91 naval cannon. For 12 hours under tropical sun, the two vessels engage, pirates trying to keep the Navy at bay, using their hostages as implicit leverage, while the Indian Navy tries to suppress the threat without killing the civilians below. The cannon delivers the decisive blow by late afternoon. Fuel drums aboard the Pranali A-14 are struck. They ignite. The vessel begins to burn. With the ship on fire beneath them, 35 people go into the water. 15 pirates and 20 hostages, all in the sea at once. The Concarso ceases fire immediately. Every weapon is pointed down. The rescue operation begins. The INS Calpini and Coast Guard ship CGS Talp arrive to assist. One by one, they pull people from the water. Of the 15 pirates, 10 die in the encounter, whether from wounds, drowning, or the fire is not fully confirmed. 5 survivors are arrested and transported to Mumbai for trial. All 20 hostages are recovered alive. The Pranali A-14 burns for several hours before sinking. March 13, 2011, the Arabian Sea. 2 months later, an Indian Navy patrol aircraft spots something troubling. The Mozambique-registered fishing vessel, Vega 5, sitting strangely in the water, far from where it should be. The Vega 5 had been reported missing since December 27, 2010, nearly 3 months earlier. It is owned by a Spanish fishing company called Pescar LDA. On board are 133 crew members who have been held hostage since before the new year. The pirates have demanded $1.8 million in ransom. The Indian Navy dispatches the INS Calpini, a fast attack craft, to intercept. As the Calpini approaches the Vega 5, the pirates don't negotiate. They open fire immediately, rocket-propelled grenades and a cache of more than 80 assault rifles. The Indian Navy returns fire. The exchange is intense. The Vega 5 catches fire. Faced with the inferno spreading across the vessel they had occupied for 3 months, all 61 pirates make the same calculation. The water is safer than the ship. They jump one after another into the Arabian Sea. The Indian Navy launches rescue operations immediately. The 61 pirates are pulled from the sea and taken into custody. And the 133 crew members, who have spent nearly 3 months as hostages, not knowing whether they would ever go home, are freed. The INS Calpini then turns its attention to the Vega 5 itself and manages to extinguish the fire. The vessel is escorted safely to Mumbai. 133 hostages, 3 months of captivity, ended in the space of a single engagement. The Americans weren't alone in these waters, and the pirates weren't always targeting obvious civilian ships. May 22, 2009, Gulf of Aden. The Maersk Virginia, part of the same company as the Alabama, sailing just weeks after that ship's famous captain was taken hostage, finds itself under attack in the Gulf of Aden. The Virginia's crew transmits a distress call before the pirates can fully board. The Canadian warship HMCS Winnipeg, part of the International Anti-Piracy Coalition patrolling the area, receives the signal. 3 naval helicopters are scrambled from the Winnipeg within minutes. They converge on the attack location so fast that the pirates aboard the skiff designated Maria K, which has attached itself to the Virginia, haven't even finished their boarding operation before they're being circled by military aircraft. The pirates see the Winnipeg approaching. They see the helicopters. They make the only rational decision available. They discard their weapons into the ocean where they can't be used as evidence or as a threat, and surrender. An Italian Navy boarding team, coordinating with the Canadians as part of the multinational coalition, approaches the Maria K, boards it, and secures the vessel. The attack is over. The Virginia is untouched. March 29, 2009, Operation Atalanta. The German naval tanker FGS Spessart is sailing as part of Operation Atalanta, the EU Naval Force's anti-piracy mission. When a small boat carrying 7 pirates closes in and begins a direct assault. The Spessart is a replenishment vessel, not a warship, but it carries a 12-man security detail that is very much prepared for this. The security team opens fire. The exchange is intense. The pirates are repelled. But this is only the beginning. The German frigate Rheinland-Pfalz receives the distress call and moves to intervene. And it does not come alone. Vessels from the HNLMS Des Provinciën The Spanish frigate SPS Victoria and the USS Boxer join the pursuit. What follows is a multi-hour, multinational naval chase across open ocean. The pirate boat is fast, but it is being tracked from the air and hemmed in from multiple directions simultaneously. The pirates are eventually captured. 7 men, multiple nations. One shared conclusion: there is no part of these waters where a pirate boat can outrun a coalition naval response. February 18, 2011. 23 hours, the Indian Ocean. Scott and Jean Adam are a retired couple from California. For the past several years, they have been sailing their 58-foot yacht, the SV Quest, around the world, distributing Bibles to coastal communities in remote locations, moving slowly, living simply. They have 2 friends aboard. They are unarmed. 19 Somali pirates board the Quest in the dark. The U.S. Navy response is overwhelming and immediate. The aircraft carrier USS Enterprise alters course. The guided missile cruiser USS Lady Gulf moves in. The guided missile destroyers USS Sterett and USS Bulkley form a perimeter around the Quest as the pirates sail it toward the Somali coast. Their plan is to bring the 4 Americans to Puntland and ransom them for millions. February 21st. 3 days into the standoff, 2 pirates board the USS Sterett to negotiate. The Navy, led by Captain Craig Fowler of the Enterprise and operating through careful, structured back-channel communication, is working toward a peaceful resolution. They offer the pirates a deal: take the yacht, leave the people. The pirates refuse. February 22nd. The situation fractures. 1 pirate aboard the Quest fires a rocket-propelled grenade at the USS Sterett. It misses, but barely. In the calculus of a military response, this changes everything. A SEAL team, which has been staged and ready, is given authorization to board. They approach the Quest under cover of night, moving with the silence that makes SEAL operations so difficult to counter. They board. Resistance is immediate. In the firefight that follows inside the cramped space of a 58-foot yacht, 2 pirates are killed by rifle fire. A third is killed with a combat knife. The remaining 13 surrender. They throw their AK-47s overboard and raise their hands. But when the SEALs reach the cabin below decks, the 4 Americans are already dead. Scott and Jean Adam, Phyllis McKay, Bob Riggle. All 4 had been shot by their captors in the final moments before the Navy boarded. It appears to have been a last act of defiance, or panic, by pirates who knew they were about to be captured and chose to eliminate their leverage rather than surrender it. 2 additional pirates were also found dead on board. No clear explanation was ever provided for how they died. 13 pirates were taken into custody. They were tried in federal court and convicted on all charges: piracy, kidnapping, murder. Life sentences, no parole. It was the darkest outcome of the entire era. A perfect Navy response, fast, professional, authorized, that arrived minutes too late. And yet, in these same waters, just weeks earlier, a very different kind of piracy encounter had played out. One that stripped away any ambiguity about what happens when you mistake a U.S. Navy warship for a merchant vessel. April 10, 2010. Gulf of Aden. The USS Ashland is a landing ship dock, one of the U.S. Navy's larger surface assets, equipped for amphibious operations and armed accordingly. It is on routine patrol in the Gulf of Aden when it is approached by a small skiff. The men in the skiff open fire with small arms. They have not identified their target. The Ashland's crew follows rules of engagement. The response is 2 rounds from the ship's Mk-38 Mod 2, a 25-millimeter chain gun rated to destroy armored vehicles and helicopters. Against a small wooden skiff with no armor, the effect is immediate and decisive. 1 round strikes a pirate directly, the force carrying through his body before the skiff catches fire. The surviving pirates abandon the burning boat and enter the water. The USS Ashland deploys its rigid hull inflatables. The survivors are pulled from the sea, brought aboard the warship, checked for weapons, given medical attention. They are transported to the United States. They are convicted of piracy and conspiracy. They are sentenced to life in prison, plus 10 years. 11 ships, multiple oceans, India, Russia, Malaysia, the United States, Canada, Germany. Every one of these navies operating under different rules of engagement, different legal frameworks, different philosophies about what to do with a pirate once you have him. Some captives ended up in American federal prisons, some in Indian courtrooms in Mumbai, some were left adrift with no navigation equipment in the middle of the ocean. Some were shot before they ever reached a courtroom. But across all of it, the one constant is this: the pirates never won the exchange. They operated on the assumption that size, speed, and surprise were enough, that the open ocean was a frontier beyond consequence. What they encountered over and over again was something their planning never accounted for: a global network of warships, aircraft, satellites, and elite military personnel, already in position, already watching, already moving. The distress signal was never just a cry for help. It was the starting gun for something the pirates had no answer for. Some of them figured that out in time to surrender. Most of them figured it out too late. History remembers those who listen. Subscribe to Dark History Archives and uncover the stories that were never meant to be told.